I think bringing people together in real life is absolutely having a renaissance. And at the same time, people have a lot of constraints on their time. And so getting together, they've got to have a real purpose of why they're going to attend a dinner or go to a conference. We're working for Zuora here, but the objective of bringing people together is really to help them further their thinking, to build the connections, and to build some brand affinity around a topic that's really important for our customers.
Hi, and welcome back to SaaS Half Full, the only show serving B2B SaaS marketers. I'm Lindsay Groper, EVP at PamBlast, and I will be both your host and bartender today. I had a great conversation with Amy Konary, who is the SVP at Zuora's Subscribed Institute. And we talked today about how you can mine your system or platform data to build a think tank or institute type model for thought leadership. So if you care to, grab a drink and join me as I speak with Amy. Hi, Amy. Welcome to SaaS Half Full.
Thank you so much. It's great to be here.
Well, I was so excited to see your interest come through. We had met at the Empowered CXO retreat, which seems like a long time ago, but a few weeks now in Arizona, and was happy to hear you want to come on and share your knowledge. And before I hit record, I had asked you why you wanted to come on, and your answer was just really from the heart, and that you were inspired at this retreat and felt like you wanted to help people through your knowledge. So we appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
And my drink kit did make its way to you. What are you drinking today?
I am drinking a mango soul. Looks really
well, for those of you that aren't watching, most of you are just listening, but it looks very pretty. It is colorful. It is red and yellow and very pretty. Mine is not as pretty because it's a vodka soda, which is Tito's and soda, which is what pretty much my go-to drink, and it's in a tumbler. So not as pretty as Amy's, but thank you for sticking with the process and sharing a drink with me. Cheers.
Absolutely. Cheers to you.
Okay, before we dive into our topic today, Amy, I do want to give our listeners an understanding of who you are, your role, and how you got to where you are today. So if you could give us the abridged version of how you got into more of the B2B SaaS marketing world, and then what your current role is today as SVP at the Subscribed Institute at Zuora, that'd be a great place to start.
Absolutely. Yeah, I have been involved in B2B SaaS literally from the beginning. So I was an industry analyst at IDC that defined and sized the SaaS market for the first time. So I had to go figure out how much money they were actually generating. And the very first forecast, I think I identified about $40 million worldwide. And that was like completely fudging the numbers because, of course, nobody would tell me how many customers they had or what they were doing. But I got very interested in the space then. I had been in enterprise software prior to that. And I've really spent my career in go-to-market for a very long time. I've had roles in customer success, sales, strategy, and marketing. And I came to Zuora 8 years ago. So I've been at Zuora for 8 years in a lot of those different roles. But one of the things that I have consistently done is I've been the founder and the chair of something called the Subscribed Institute. And that's what I wanted to share with everyone today.
Okay, awesome. Tell us a little bit about the Subscribed Institute, why it was founded in the first place.
So I'll give you a little bit of background on Zuora, if only to explain the Subscribed Institute. So Zuora is a financial B2B enterprise SaaS company. We help companies that have recurring revenues, price, package, invoice, bill, and recognize revenue for things like subscriptions, usage, et cetera. And what was happening was that a lot of our customers were brand new to recurring revenues. A lot of our customers are SaaS companies, but it's only about 30%. And all of them were finding that there was so much change within their industries. There was a lot of guidance that they were looking for, and there weren't a lot of trusted resources for that information. And this was something that I had noticed before I joined Zuora. And I actually came to Zuora when I proposed to our CEO that I come and launch this think tank to help solve some of the problems. So number one, I knew that customers had a problem, which is they were looking for advice and guidance on how to build these recurring revenue businesses. And there was information out there, but there was really an opportunity for Zuora to take a leadership role. The second thing was that Zuora, as a SaaS company, had an incredibly large, rich repository of data that did not exist anywhere else on how companies are pricing and packaging. What are the terms that they're putting in place? How are their businesses growing? And because of my experience previously as an industry analyst, I knew how rare and how incredibly valuable that data set actually was. And I knew that there was an opportunity to take that data, to anonymize and aggregate that, and to use that data as a way of brokering trust and relationships with Zora's customers. So those are two things that I knew our customers needed. They needed advice and they needed fact-based advice. And then Zora itself was faced with the challenge, which was really easy for them to build relationships with people who are in the system. But it was a lot harder for Zora as a billing system that most people in the company aren't seeing or interacting with to actually build relationships with executives. We thought that could be solved with really high value thought leadership to create really lasting relationships with executives. So that was my proposal. And that was what I joined Zora to do a number of years ago. And it's been incredibly helpful for our customers, incredibly helpful for our brand. So I founded this think tank, and then I brought people on to do a lot of the thought leadership and the subject matter expertise. It's, like I said, something that I think is really transferable to a lot of other types of companies.
Yeah. So what we're going to talk about today is how to mine your system or platform data it may not be to build a full-blown institute, right? Or maybe it's more of the think tank route, but how to mine that for thought leadership to sort of fuel this executive engagement and carry through brand affinity, demand gen, nurturing, beyond. Realistically, not all of our listeners are going to have the infrastructure in place to build out an institute. Maybe they will, maybe they won't, but want to just sort of level set on the thought leadership. And because thought leadership has been around for quite some time, it's something that I would say most SaaS marketers subscribe to the idea that thought leadership is a part of their overall marketing mix, but it's overused a lot. And just like they're starting to hear the term AI slop come out, there's a lot of like thought slop as well.
Yeah.
So how do you define like good thought leadership today in this era of a lot of misinformation and mistrust?
Absolutely. So there are kind of three components that make our thought leadership, our type of thought leadership really valuable. The number one is the data. And every SaaS company has data. It can be your own, usage data within your system. It can be transaction patterns, within your system. It can be performance metrics, maybe from your sales engineering team, where they're going in and talking with customers, or customers are filling out an assessment online. There's lots of different ways. I think the system data is the best data, but any data that you can collect, again, you've got to anonymize and aggregate it, because trust is so super important everywhere, especially with these types of thought leadership. That's your moat right there, is having that trust. The third component of thought leadership, which has existed forever, but that is really important for an institute, maybe even more so, are the actual case studies from executives at companies who made these decisions. Again, your regular company case studies might be showcasing the use of your platform. In these case studies, you're showcasing the person. You're giving them a platform to talk about the incredible decision that they made, or the strategy that they executed, or the growth project that they led. And again, that feeds back to that core message, whatever that might be, that's supported by the data that you then build the content and the events and the thought leadership around.
Okay. And you had said that you go to your data science team with an idea or specific ask. And I feel like that's a place where other marketers get stuck, is they know they have a lot of data, but just to go and say, well, what data do we have? Or what data can you pull? What insights can you pull? It's just too big. So
Right.
Where are you getting your ideas, your inspiration, your knowledge of what you need in the first place to even bring to your data scientists with that specific ask?
So most companies, including us, you're going to have an object model. And that's just, the object model is the way that I'm a very visual person. So think of it like a chart of squares and lines that talk about what information exists in the database for your product. So these are all of the different pieces of information that are going to be unique to a customer or a company within your system, just because of how they're using our product. So then you just go to the data science team and say, can you look at these things? Or, one of the best situations is to find a partner within that team, and somebody who, as a data scientist, might be really interested in elevating their profile within the company or even outside of the company. You probably do need to work with someone who can manipulate the data a little bit within SQL, although so much more is possible now than there was 8 years prior with all kinds of AI tools, et cetera, for analyzing data. But that's just really the key, finding a partner, looking at that object model, seeing what's possible, and then just fooling around. And then there are things that we do every year. So we have something that we publish every year called the Subscription Economy Index, which is an index of companies with recurring revenues that we create out of our own data. We publish it every year. Every year it is the top performing piece of content on our website. The Subscription Economy Index is referenced even independent of Zuora. So one of my favorite moments was there was a financial analyst report that came out that was upgrading the rating on Zuora due to the Subscribed Institute's Subscription Economy Index. So they had said the Subscribed Institute is showing growth in the subscription economy, and therefore we are raising our coverage on Zuora. And that one was very clear that this is Zuora's Subscribed Institute. And so it was on that financial institution for not realizing the connection between Zuora and the Subscribed Institute. But I thought that it really kind of tickled me a bit that they were.
Yeah, I was going to say, how did that feel?
It felt really great. And I would say the other thing that we've done an incredible job with is partnering outside of Zuora. You mentioned the noise and thought leadership, and I realized that very on. We are Zuora, a software company. How much are people going to listen to us? We actually had a pretty decent license for thought leadership, but it was really important to me to make sure that we validated it somehow. So we developed research partnerships with McKinsey and BCG because of this data set that didn't exist anywhere else. And so we had McKinsey reports suddenly that, and you can do partnerships with those firms, but they cost money. I spend $0 on it. But we had these reports that went out the door from McKinsey and BCG referencing Zuora and the Subscribed Institute, which really validated our model, so much so that off of those reports, I have gotten a number of academic partnerships as well. I'm teaching a course in a couple of weeks at London Business School on a lot of these topics. So it has been both personally rewarding as well as really created a ton of brand affinity and respect for Zuora out in the marketplace because of the validation that we've gotten. And again, from that, what I see is really pure intention to help the companies that we serve as opposed to simply, talk about the product or make a lot of noise about something that wasn't going to be a ton of value.
You had talked about the index that you put out and how that is it's a big piece for you. Salespeople engage with it. Executives, I'm sure, engage with it. You do a webinar. Outside of that, what's been most effective in getting your executives or external leaders to engage with the Institute's content or initiatives, and in what way are they engaging? What's your expectation on that?
So we've got kind of a three-pronged approach to that. So number one is every single piece of research that we do is based on some sort of a proprietary benchmark or piece of framework. And so we really start with what's the question that everyone is asking that we're trying to answer with the framework, with a piece of data. And then we look for other people who might be in the industry to help amplify our message who are also trying to answer that question. So I'll give you an example. AI monetization or the monetization of AI is a topic that is really important right now. And so we have someone within our institute who said, I'm going to build a framework, but I'm going to partner with some of the pricing consultancies that are out there so that when we have the framework, we're going to publish it, and we're going to publish it not just here, but also on that pricing strategist's website. We'll do a webinar with pricing strategist and really, launch this as a piece of research. Now, the whole of our content strategy is, and our event strategy is around AI monetization. But when we were building this framework 6 months ago, it hadn't caught up to that in the industry quite yet. Our customers weren't talking about it. Sometimes with the think tank topics, you've got to kind of get ahead of it. So that's the one thing, is what's a really great topic that we can get ahead of, and who else is trying to answer that our customers might listen to. The second piece then is the content, and what does that look like? A few years ago, that would have been a white paper. Now it might be a framework, but it's a 3-part post on LinkedIn. And that 3-part post might go on LinkedIn first, and then it ends up on our website. Maybe it ends up on a partner website. Maybe it's part of an event proceeding. So the person who wrote this framework then presented at a number of industry events about the AI monetization framework. And then that content lives in a number of different places. And then the final piece is we bring people together to talk about the frameworks. So we have a dinner series. I think bring people together in real life is absolutely having a renaissance. And at the same time, people have a lot of constraints on their time. And so getting together, they've got to have a real purpose of why they're going to attend a dinner or go to a conference. And so we focused on the small dinners and the small dinners around a topic. And these are typically topics that are coming from the Subscribed Institute. So we have a ton of AI monetization events that we're doing this fall. And we're able to bring executives. This is an incredibly hot topic for them. And, again, really help people work through a topic that's really challenging for them, that frankly, they're going to need technology to support. Hopefully, we believe that technology will be Zora's technology, but the objective of bringing people together is really to help them get further their thinking, to build the connections, and to build some brand affinity around a topic that's really important for our customers.
I love the idea around the small dinner, small get-togethers. The more marketers I spoke with at the event that we were both at, that's a strategy, and I keep diving into that because primarily my question is always, what is the why that somebody wants to attend? Because to your point, we're time constrained. So, and we're both the same way. It's like, unless there's a real compelling reason for me to miss soccer practice
Right.
or try and coordinate, right? Do all the scheduling gymnastics of trying to get a kid to soccer practice. Like, I have to have a pretty compelling reason. And I really like the idea of structuring it around a hot topic for discussion. That's great. One of the challenges with any type of brand initiative, whether that's thought leadership or PR, is what is the lift it's giving the business? And you certainly have some CEOs and boards that wholeheartedly believe in the power of brand, but you have a whole host of others that don't like brand spend because they can't tie direct ROI. What type of success metrics are you being held to as you're running the Subscribed Institute to continue the funding of it and continue resources towards it? How does that fit into the broader pipeline generation, or does it, or are you held to that or tied to that at all?
We have, so it does. It's been really important to me from the very beginning that we be able to justify, why is this an important thing for the business to continue to support and invest? It is difficult to measure things like attribution and, in an enterprise software sale where some of our closed deals will have something like 140 touch points along the journey, right? So we're measuring influence. So are other parts of the business. But I really do believe, because we are the primary vehicle through which executives are interacting with us, it is relevant to look at pipeline influence. And so since the very inception of the Institute, we've influenced over $500 million of pipeline for Zora, which is something I'm really proud of. Again, the other thing that we did that I also measure is we made it a community membership organization. So if you attended a Subscribed Institute event, and also we have a Subscribed Institute site where you can request membership. And so we have 1,600 people, executives at A and B accounts, who are interacting with us at least once a year. So, break that down to like 400 of those 1,600 that are super active. For a company like Zora, where we're talking about selling, billing, and we're not a high volume business, I would say. It's B2B enterprise. And so to have 400 really engaged executives, the majority of those are not Zora customers today. So it's been an incredible nurture vehicle as well. It's a very engaged group of executives that kind of helps fuel that pipeline influence. The other component is what we found early on. People would say, this has been super helpful. Maybe they attended a dinner. Could you come and talk to our company about this? And so we also do one-on-one work. And so we get rolled out in front of executives at customers with some of our most strategic and important deals. And we also track that. So for those big deals where we get involved, what is the close rate? How does that look different from the deals where we're not getting involved? And what is the size of those deals, which they tend to be the biggest and the gnarliest sales deals that we have, again, because they're the strategic ones. So we track the influence deals that we're actually in one-to-one, because we do get involved in some of those biggest deals. And then, it's really important for us to have those member relationships and to track those as well, because it is a great source of nurture for us and engagement for companies that should be Zuora customers at some point in time, but just aren't ready. Billing is like a once in a 7 or 8 year decision. So we have to nurture folks for a long time. So
Right.
that nurture piece is really important.
And what advice would you give to marketers who are listening? And you're right, most of them are going to be B2B SaaS marketing leaders who the idea of, full-blown institute seems far-reaching, but they like what they hear, but they're maybe a little bit hesitant on making a case for it. Is this something that you actually need to go and say, this is a thing that I'm thinking about doing to the powers that be? Or is this really more of a lighter lift where you find your internal, advocates within the data science team and you just start doing?
So you can do it either way, depending on what outcome you're looking to achieve. I think working with your data science team and putting out benchmarks and thought leadership around that can be an incredible way of supercharging your content strategy. It can make your content go farther and be recognized and referenced more. And I think that can absolutely help. Remember, there were a couple of things we were trying to do with the think tank, and one of them was to build relationships with executives. And so we really felt that in order to do that, we had to kind of go full institute and have that research, content, and events that would reinforce one another to make it as powerful. And I think if we hadn't done that, it would have been a lot harder to broker relationships with McKinsey and BCG and to develop the relationships that we have outside with academia. So what we did was we created a launch for the Institute. It was a launch moment. And again, you can do these little or big. We had an existing conference, and it was something from the keynote stage. Hey, we know that this is really hard running a recurring revenue business, and we've brought this person in, and we're going to run this think tank, and you should all look to become members of it, and it's going to be really valuable. And then we put aside some space for it on our website. We had a special template for it because it needed to look a little bit different from the template that we're using for other content to kind of set it aside. So it becomes a differentiator that people want to talk with you about. And, you could do that by simply going to your data science team and supercharging your content strategy. And I think that's something that anyone can do, but with a slightly different take on marketing what you're doing. Call it an institute or a think tank, and, put some branding behind it. And with a little bit of that, I think you can take it a bit farther.
Love that. Well, this has been great. Is there anything else that you want to share that we didn't have a chance to tackle yet?
I think I will share, one of the challenges that you may find you face. And I mentioned how we're tracking influence, and I've been really important to me to make sure that we're involved in a deal, and that deal notice goes out, that AE make sure to mention that we were involved in that deal, and to thank the Institute if we materially helped them. Because every year when it's time to do budgets, because this isn't something it isn't all of content strategy, or content marketing, it isn't all of demand gen, it sort of sits alone. You do often have financing, or, someone new might come in, a new PE firm. What is this thing? Is it sales engineering? Is it marketing? Is it customer success? It's kind of all of those things, but it's not any one thing. So it does become something, and I've been able to successfully defend it for 8 years. So it is something that people do see value in, and ultimately Zuora has decided to continue on with the strategy, but it is something that is a bit different from every other function, I would say. And so as a result, I just say for people to be prepared to justify any investment that you might make, including in people. I'm a subject matter expert in the area of recurring revenue, as are the other 2 people that are on my team. We can talk with executives, we can run dinners, we can do keynotes, and those people are a little bit more expensive than a field marketer or some of the other resources. And so it's just something you have to be aware of.
Okay. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
This has been great. I ask all of my guests the same question to send us out, which is, do you have a signature or a favorite toast that you'd like to send us out with?
Oh, gosh. I That's a great question. I am just a cheers person. Just a
So
big
my
cheers.
cheers.
All
So
right.
I always laugh because if you ask me that question, that's me. I'm a cheers girl, or I'm like a bottoms up girl. I don't know, but I've had all sorts of very interesting answers, but mine is very basic.
Yeah,
So,
mine is basic.
Classic. Nope, it is classic. Well, thank you so much for the time, Amy. I really appreciate it.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks again to Amy for joining me on SaaS Half Full. Hopefully, if you're thinking about starting this type of a thought leadership model, you realize that it can just start with you and a partner in the data science team, and it doesn't have to necessarily be a full-blown institute type of model like Amy implements at Zuora. Always appreciate the listen, and until next time, bottoms up.